Welcome to Lickin' on Lending, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the mortgage industry. Your host, David Lickin, bringing you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, this show is your go-to source for all things mortgage. Let's get started. This is Lickin' on Lending. Now your host, David Lickin.
Listeners, welcome to another episode of Lickin' on Lending. Today's podcast is going to be a departure off of the mortgage space and into something that is related. And I just encourage you to stay tuned all the way through this podcast. We just recorded it, and I'm going back and recording an intro to this because we have as a guest, of course, Pavan, who's everything AI and talking about blockchain and the future of where things are at. I have found him to be such a credible resource as we look at where the industry is going and the developments he has made and is intricately involved in making happen in the financial realm. And now we're understanding the importance of digital wallets and his AI, his Angel AI wallet. And we have that. And we're going to understand from today's podcast what else can go in that wallet in addition to your financial information. And we're going to be talking about your medical information. And joining us today will also be Damon Burrows. Damon was chief legal counsel for Allegan. You'll hear about this in the interview a bit. But he had a seat at the table in the most unique way, talking about all that's going on. He's recently partnered with Pavan in working with the wallet and the medical devices, and a medical device you'll hear about in this interview. So I encourage you to listen to this. Again, you scratch your head, just what does this have to do with AI, and what does this have to do with the mortgage industry? Everything's blending together. When you own your data, your financial data, and you now can own your medical data, you're going to hear about how valuable that really is. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Listeners, we're back with Pavan and some new developments in the medical field. You go like, okay, what does that have to do with mortgages? We're looking always at innovation. What's going on? And one of the things I enjoy about Pavan, he's always looking over the horizon at what is the next big thing in many areas of life. And so, Pavan, it's good to have you here. And we have joining us one of your dear friends. If you would introduce our good guest and friend, Damon, that'd be awesome, Pavan.
Yeah, so you all meet Damon Burrows. He is incredible. He's got over 100, maybe 200 patents in his company that he built from scratch. And they're all around medical devices, being able to do these micro catheters for fixing your arteries in your eyes and your heart and so forth. And he's got these incredible CT scan machines that can get down to 1/10 of a millimeter, right? So, I mean, that's like what, a tenth of a hair or something, or even smaller.
That takes it from old style television into the finest OLED TV you could find. That was exactly the best analogy.
Exactly. So now with and these devices are like 1/4 or 1/5 the cost and 1/4 the radiation. So it's better for you. It's cheaper. They're mobile. So like this is perfect for the military. They could be advanced CT scan machine right on the field. And of course, what makes it all possible is the way that the CT scan machine works. Is all AI driven, and that's how it's able to see that level of resolution. So it can see the most minute, vascular structures and most minute neural structures in your body and find and fix it. Okay. So now what does that all have to do with mortgage banking?
Yeah.
Right? Well, first of all, it does affect reverse mortgages because people are going to live longer now.
They're dead. There you go. That's a good way to look at it. Yep. That's absolutely the case. But, well, a little background, Damon, you were the chief legal counsel for a major pharmaceutical, were you not?
I used to be chief regulatory counsel for a company called Allegan, maker of Botox and breast implants, and one of the largest ophthalmology companies in the world at the time. And then we sold the company about 10 years ago to activists who renamed it Allegan. So, I've definitely been in the large pharmaceutical space, but since then, I turned my efforts a little bit more entrepreneurial and a lot more disruptive, which is where my paths crossed with Pavan somewhere along the way.
Well, you guys are doing some innovative things, but we have to give a shout out to your wife, Katrina. She is amazing. I actually met the two of you, at Pavan's Christmas party there in Puerto Rico in December, and it was just an amazing event, as all of Pavan's events are. And oh my gosh, just fell in love with your wife. She's just an amazing, high energy person. And so I wish we could have her on here. We have to do that at some point in time. But I really want to focus in on this. And Pavan, when you guys, and I think you guys collaborated, put together these notes, but let's describe the current problem. Let's start with where the current problem is.
Well, there's a lot of problems. I mean, we could talk about the CT scan problem. They're not available.
I think that's probably the best place because that's a lot of what, I mean, there's so many things you guys both have got going.
Right.
But let's focus in on that because and then I'm always relating it back to our audience, Pavan, metaphorically. How is it that innovation is coming in and transforming the medical industry as what you and Damon are doing together?
Yeah. So let me, I'm going to go backwards on this a little bit. So okay. I'm going to start with how this technology is going to increase home ownership.
Okay.
Right? So, first, obviously, better medical equipment, better medical care increases life expectancy. But here's what we're doing together. What Dave and I are doing together is this technology will actually print money every single month for its customers. Okay, so there, with
and who are their customers, by the way?
Just Main Street America, everyday people.
All right.
And here's what happens is here's what's happening in the world is salaries have remained stagnant, jobs have remained flat, and unemployment is rising, and we're expecting a weak unemployment report this week. And inflation is going up. Housing prices have actually stopped rising because of affordability problems, right? And then we got AI looming here, which is threatening to further squeeze the labor markets. And big tech is not telling everyone how to make money in the AI world, right? Because if you and I understood, if everyone listening to this really understood where the real money is in the AI world, okay, big tech will be out of money, okay? And the real money is in your data, right? So every time you go visit the doctor, every time you get a CT scan, every time you get blood work, right? All that data, right, is you should keep that and license that out. So people's income.
So is that where blockchain intersects with this conversation?
That's where blockchain intersects. Exactly. The future of income is you leasing out your data.
Interesting.
Not giving away your data. Like right now, when you use Google, when you use ChatGPT, or Facebook, you're giving them the data. And over again, I think, what's the guy from Larry Ellison from Oracle was just talking about this. He's like all the models are the same now because all the data is the same. He's basically saying, hey, if the company that figures out how to get new, original, clean data is the company that's going to win, right? And that means there's a massive premium on your data. And yet none of us are collecting it, tracking it. And worst yet, we're all giving it away for free.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So Damon, jump in on this conversation that we're having.
Yeah. So that's precisely the problem is the way that we've built the tech economy is taking people's data essentially for free by making them widely available and then monetizing that data based on their preferences. But because of the incredibly common large language models that are now pervasive, it's very clear to see what's going to happen. You're going to have these incredibly sophisticated large language models about which you do not want them to have your private data. And I saw Mr. Ellison say the same about private data. Everything's trained on public data, but private data is really an untapped resource. And it's an untapped resource that really is an opportunity to do something very special and different. Because unlike a lot of other kinds of data, like consumer behavioral data, medical healthcare data has not been consolidated in any large, substantial amount that it could be monetized. And we think that's a very, not only exciting opportunity for individuals, but it's a very exciting premise for research. Having access to medical information, especially high definition volumetric imaging information like we have, we think can be the cornerstone of being able to monetize individual data throughout the world. And so it's a very important play, not just for individuals, but for governments, sovereigns, and systems.
Yeah, a lot of this really gets into privacy issues where we have a privacy crisis, you could almost say. Or is that correct?
Well, that's right. So essentially, if you put something into large language models, that information can be taken, used, and either appropriately or inappropriately, but you're out of control. And especially as it relates to healthcare data, Pavan figured this out on the consumer side. You have to have the highest levels of security. You do not want that data exposed on the consumer financing side because that's your individual personal information.
Right. Your
It's
financial
exactly the
data.
same-
Yeah. Which
it's
is now
exactly the
the
same thing in
same, which the
healthcare.
same as your medical records. I mean, you do not want that out there to be access. I mean, I'm sitting there, I just had blood drawn for another medical test this morning. And I was thinking about that as Pavan's talking and going, dang, where did that data go? Who has that data? But how do we start securing that? How do we start owning it and getting it into a blockchain?
Well, that's the genius of Pavan. I'll let Pavan explain what he and his team have developed, which is amazing.
And that's where we come in. That's where Angel AI comes in. Is what we do with Angel AI is we have a built-in Angel wallet. Okay, so it's on chain on the Ethereum chain, globally accepted blockchain. With that, you secure the data on your wallet. So what we are doing is integrating, like say, with Damon's CAT scan machines, right? And Damon's catheter, arterial catheter system, right? And then we'll just go device after device, we'll integrate it in there. So as you go and you get your blood drawn, get your blood results, that all that will feed into your central wallet. Okay. And the only person that has access to those wallets is you, because you're the only one. So all you have to do to access your wallet, if you set it up in a truly secure way, a non-custodial wallet, you just have to remember 10 little words, right? 10 single syllable words, right? And it's in your head. No one can take that out. No one can steal it from you. If you remember those 10 words.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's remembering those 10 words sometimes what can be. But so securing that.
Yeah.
So how does this relate to the device that you have created or that you now own, Damon? And how are you doing that? How do you get information into this wallet versus into the public domain, out of the public domain, and keep it from out of the public domain is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. So it's really exciting what we're able to do now based on new advances in technology. We have an ability, as Pavan alluded to before, to scale down to 0.1 millimeter resolution, full 3D volumetric imaging.
To explain what that means. I mean, we hear that and we're mortgage bankers. We're going, and I can kind of get what you're talking about, but where is the technology at now? And what is it that you're specifically getting down to? And then how important is it?
So it's a great question. Currently, the way that CTs and MRI machines have been built is it's based on slices, right? And how many slices you can pile into that process. There are advantages and disadvantages to that. There is a very elegant technology that we call volumetric high definition imaging that instead of taking slices, takes voxels or three-dimensional
images. What takes what? Voxels?
Voxels, which are essentially three-dimensional images, little bits, and images them as a three-dimensional object as a whole. And what that means is instead of waiting 30 or 40 minutes sometimes for a rendering, within 1 minute, we can generate a full 3D image from image to render on the screen. So it's an incredibly fast, powerful tool.
And this is what really gets interesting. At what level of clarity? I mean, I'm thinking pixelization.
Yeah, so the best is to go to our website, patafina.com, and look at some of the images because it's...
Spell that for us. Spell it for our listeners if you could.
Sure, PATIFINA, patafina.com. So it's actually much easier. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? The videos that we can show you about the inside of the body are really astounding because if you're used to seeing CTs and imaging for MRIs and CTs, most of them have imaging that it's adequate, right? But it requires a specialist to read them. What you'll see with our images is that the visibility into 3 dimensions off axis is unparalleled because we image in actual 3D itself. So that's very exciting because, like I say, in 1 minute, we can image a 16 centimeter section of the body. And then that section, we can, within 1 minute, put VR goggles on and take a tour through that part of the body, seeing everything down to the smallest arteries. So it's really science fiction that's come to reality.
Yeah, that means imagining a doctor looking inside you with VR glasses. I mean, that just starts bending your mind. And then I have a real interest in this because my brother just had a heart valve done. I'm going to go have a Clearly test done, which is they say it's the best way to look at the valves and the heart and how that is to see if there's any blockages or what. And there's soft and hard plaque, all these things. Does this work in the heart realm, the cardio realm?
Yeah. So the cardiovascular space has been incredibly successful at identifying plaques, obstruction, stenosis. This has been a game changer for the cardiovascular interventions. So that is just a long-standing, well-established path toward a better health. What's exciting is that we can now see some of those obstructions at a much smaller level. The vascular structure, not just in the large arteries, but in some of the small structures that were not otherwise visible before. Well, you can imagine as a researcher, that gets exciting because now you can correlate what is early stage onset stenosis versus later stage. And how does that correlate with other kinds of stenosis? So once you can intervene on a smaller scale and you can see what no one else can see, it allows us to have earlier and earlier intervention, which is exciting from a longevity standpoint.
And if you listen to what Damon said there about how you can establish new correlations. Right. Now imagine, 100,000 people, 1 million people have their medical data on Angel Wallet, right? And how much money would Big Pharma pay to those people to say, give me access to your wallet so I can run an algorithm to look for correlations.
Wow.
This is right, people. So now you're in a position where you can license your data to the highest bidder, and you can have restricted licenses to. I'll let you license my data to do one study, to do this one research.
So the whole concept of what you have pioneered and been doing in the mortgage industry is, putting all the data, consumer data, there's financial data into a wallet. Now you're talking about expanding that because we think our world of mortgages are complicated. You go into the medical world and all of a sudden I can't even imagine exponentially much more sophisticated, much more data that's in there.
Well, finance and medical, at the end of the day, is not, from an AI perspective, is not a lot of difference. Number one is privacy, very high privacy, right?
And security.
And number two, you can't be wrong, right? So the both in order to do any kind of decisioning for medical or for financial, you need a transactional language model.
Is it too late though, Damon Pavan, that because all the data, I'm 75 years old, I've got so much medical stuff out. Is it already out in the public domain to the point where for old guys like me that it's too late to put it into a wallet?
Well, no, it's not likely that your medical data has been made public, right? So the good news is that we historically have kept them very siloed. Now that's for lots of reasons.
HIPAA, I guess, is
that's right. True. So the HIPAA rules, the privacy rule requires that doctors keep your information confidential. But doctors use that and wisely keep it safeguarded in brick and mortar facilities with paper and folders and whatnot. Not to mention on the computers, but they're very secure by intention. But doctors have an incentive to keep that confidential and with them, as opposed to sharing it with you. It's funny how often it's hard to get your own images from your own doctor, right?
Yeah,
they'll give you the report, but to get your own images is a challenge. Well, we're working to solve that because ultimately, if I have my own images and I have control of it in my wallet and I can point that to another AI analysis or another research program, I'm now able to monetize my own data in a special way. So it's not just from an empowerment standpoint, can I get a second or third or fourth opinion as they become more affordable and more available, but I can send out specific queries into closed systems as opposed to just generally turning this over into a large language model, which of course would be a terrible answer for privacy of your own health information.
Right. Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, Pavan, you introduced me to Sri, if you remember, and Sri's become a good friend. I love the guy. And he was telling me how he's taken his medical records and put it into one of, I think it's Claude, and I think it's Deep Thinking Claude, if I'm remembering, and the recommendations he's getting out of this thing. This is transforming how we look at medicine and how we're going to be dealing with this. The thought that you can monetize your data blows my mind.
And actually, it's not just monetizing. Your medical data is extremely valuable. And you talked before about how these are siloed in different doctors' offices. And of course, the doctors have no incentive and have a counter incentive to share it with you because that keeps you coming back to them, right?
Yeah.
So what we recommend is get your Angel Wallet. We're creating these integrations with people like Damon and these fascinating new medical technologies. So systematically the data will start flowing out of doctors' offices into your wallet that you control. And then we'll encourage you to go to your doctors and ask them for your records and get those ingested into the Angel Wallet.
Yeah.
So they're yours, right? You have the right to them.
Yeah,
so
right.
What we're doing is creating an easy way to pull those in and have full control of your own records.
And then the last step that we'll create inside Angel AI will be, this is where the financial and the transactional part of this comes in, will be an exchange where given your data, we could highlight what kind of data you have in your wallet and put it out to bid for for
Really?
pharma,
What you're
pharma, for
talking?
research organizations, for
Yeah.
whatever, and they can bid on your data, and the AI will protect you so that the bids are limited use licenses.
So you're turning data into becoming an asset then. All of a sudden, we have equity in our homes. We have an asset of our homes. We now have a new asset category that can sit on our balance sheet.
Exactly. And the thing is, big pharma, big tech, all these guys come up with different techniques to get you to give it to them freely because they know how valuable it is, and they don't want you to know how valuable it is. They don't want Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Main Street to know how valuable it is. So they come up with different gimmicks to get you to give away your data for free. Like, for example, this 23, right, it was like almost for free, right? I mean, hey, we're going to give you your ancestry, your DNA search, whatever. It's going to cost you $50. And it cost them way more than $50 to produce it. But what they were getting is they were getting data. They got all of your DNA information and your blood samples, right? And right, that was the whole point of 23andMe, is to get this massive amount of data from the population. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to say, hey, no, stop, no more. We're not going to let those things happen anymore, right?
Can we reclaim that for those of us that have used 20?
I have no idea. I doubt.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I think the history of that is that they went into bankruptcy and it got reorganized. And I think that data ended up inside now. What was that company? That Peter Thiel's company.
Oh yeah, Thiel's.
You know what I'm
Ultimately,
talking about.
you can access your own data from these groups, which you still have the right to, and pull them into your own wallet. So even if there's a subset of information that's out there, it's not the complete story, nor is it up to date. We think having the most up-to-date, comprehensive, complete information, especially that's available and kept up to date, is incredibly valuable for the consumer as well as for companies.
I think 23andMe data ended up inside Palantir.
Oh, it did end up inside of Palantir.
I'm pretty sure. Any of the listeners listening to this can Google and double check.
And research that. Well, it's really interesting because pharmaceutical companies have been spending billions of dollars acquiring patient data. That's a world that you used to live in, David. Talk about this.
Well, it is. So anytime you have a new, better insight into the human body, it's exciting.
Right.
And if you're able to do that in a way that now, you think about all of these other sort of tech companies that have done phenomenal things aggregating data. For us to take health information and make it accessible and pull not only medical health records, but consumer data, the power of medical data added into the consumer profile is exceedingly powerful. It allows for medical research for not just drugs and devices, but genomics, epigenomics. There are many categories that we get to be a part of if we're adequately protecting that information and ensuring it's not becoming public in some inappropriate way. Safeguarding someone's data becomes crucial and a really important step for us from a research standpoint, which is why we're so excited about this program.
Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to get insights into this. First of all, it was just fun to meet you because you're a delightful human being, you and your wife. And then anything that Pavan gets interested in, I pay attention to it.
Me too.
I'd say that for our listeners. I mean, you got to realize, Pavan and I are preparing another podcast and he was just blowing my mind. I'm trying to keep up. I feel like I'm being like the dog that got left on the leash behind the car and the family takes off. I mean, my legs are moving as fast as I can to try to keep up. Pretty soon I'm just going to be drug around here with it, but it's fascinating. You talk about your data creates billions in profits and you should share it as an upside to yourself. I think this is a fascinating concept when we start looking at this. So when you have your new medical device that's out there, and I know you're working on many things, but let's just stay focused on that one for a second. You're saying you can get that device in that medical information inside your wallet. But what does an average consumer then do with that? How does that work practically when we're going, we got to go into the doctor, we got to get a test done? How does this practically work?
Well, it's really shocking that in 2025, if you go and get MRI work done, getting the content back from your doctor should be an obvious everyday part of that process. And yet we have stories all over America where people, in fact, get a CD-ROM of images. Right. Well, we don't even have CDs on our computers anymore. Not especially useful. They're very large files. They're hard to see. So there are huge gaps in sort of information sharing, and we're always chasing our records. If you said, do you happen to have your records from CTs and MRIs for the last 10 years? Almost assuredly, the answer is no. Now, if you're part of an incredible health system, like a cutting-edge medical system, and you're a member of a concierge medicine, sure, right? It might all be there at your fingertips. But the vision that we have is what if every single person that joins our program has all of their information in the best possible manner, fully accessible and control? If we could do the same thing for a Honduran day worker or a rural healthcare patient in West Virginia, well, the same exact thing that you would get from one of the top tier teaching institutions, right? That are concierge practice medicine. So it really is because of the advances in imaging technology and electronic communications. If we give everyone access to their wallet and we make imaging much more accessible through mobile imaging labs, which is what Patafina is working on. Patafina has its mobile imaging lab where we put this machine not just in brick or mortar facilities, but in trucks, and can take it to rural America. We can take the technology to the patient and not require the patient to go to the doctor's office. It's a game changer for rural healthcare, and it really is a game changer for the consumer.
Yeah, and what you're ending is the data broker. That economy is going to be over. So if you're in the data broker, you're kind of in. Let's talk about the healthcare revolution. You started touching on this. This is really going to change healthcare forever.
I'm exceedingly excited about the moves in longevity, the wellness programs that we have now focused. We're so focused on things that are highly impactful to the body. The earlier we can detect changes, the better those success rates are going to be. This is an incredibly important piece of the puzzle. And if you, instead of finding out much later that somebody has, plaques blocking large arteries, if you had a signal that early on this person was experiencing whatever reason, advanced atherosclerotic plaques or stenosis in an artery, you would treat that person in a much different way before they get to a chronic, expensive modality. The earlier we can intervene and the better visibility we can give people to problems, the cheaper they are to fix, the faster they are to fix, and the more people we can help. So it's really, from a preventative medicine and intervention standpoint, very exciting to have mobile imaging like this.
It's very exciting. And I definitely, after we get done with this recording, I want to ask you, where can I go to get my imaging done? Because I'm really wanting to know where my heart is. I just got engaged. I'm getting remarried, as you know, and I really want to live long. My fiance's former husband, unfortunately, passed away of a heart attack. And was that preventable? Could they seen it with this kind of medical devices? Could they have avoided that tragedy of him going on? So anyway, I look at this, but it's really AI makes the data ownership much more important, Pavan. That's what kind of gets to the point where the Angel wallet is. I don't know of any other wallet that's working anywhere that's trying to capture. Am I mistaken that? I mean, I try to stay up at all of this.
Yeah, I'm not aware either where blockchain and AI have come together the way so seamlessly as we've done it. And we talk a lot about AI economy, AI jobs, and so forth, right? People are dancing around the subject, but no one's really talking about the real issue, and the real issue is data. And the way to make money in the AI economy is controlling and managing your data. Just like the way to make money in the internet economy was controlling and managing your content, right? Being a content producer. Now, the problem with the Web 2.0 world, where you were a content producer and then you posted it on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, right? And you got paid for those clicks, right? But you ended up giving away your content to Facebook and YouTube and all these guys.
Right.
Every time you post, they own it. Okay. So Web 3.0, which is basically blockchain driven and AI driven, you own the content. It's on your wallet, right? And you control it.
Where do we stand in that transition right now?
Well,
from 2.0 to 3.0?
I think it's less than 1% of America has a wallet or something like that, right? So it's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of progress happening right now with the stablecoin bill passed last summer,
Yes.
and the Clarity Act hopefully will be passed soon. And I like what Eric Trump just said. I don't know if you saw that. He came out just attacking, guns blazing against Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan, and Citi, saying you guys. You guys are trying to block the Clarity Act because once Americans figure out how much money there's wasting on you, that they don't need to, and the Clarity Act will expose your cartel, right? Right? Because think about this. You open a checking account, you put your money in a checking account and you pay them for that. And then you swipe a debit card or swipe a credit card, and then you pay them again
for that. Yeah.
For using your own money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what the beautiful blockchain. I mean, we're really talking about an economic revolution that's going on, as well as a major cultural shift. Blend these two together as it relates to this conversation.
Right. So with the combination of what's happening, this administration's legislations are on our side, which is decentralized, which means giving people control of their financial data and their money, right? And so that the banks can charge all these outrageous fees for simple transactions. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, we combine it, and we don't need any legislation, but we combine it by interfacing Angel Wallet to innovative medical devices like the stuff Damon has. And now you have in one wallet and one AI, you have your financial information and your medical information, right? And think about how
probably the most important things of a human's life.
Exactly. That's it's about everything that defines you right there. Between your financial transactions, it's your whole lifestyle and your financial transaction, right? And your medical files tells you what's actually happening to your health. So think about just the research value of the correlation between lifestyle and what impact does the lifestyle have to your medical blood markers and things like that.
So for the first time, some of the things are coming clear.
It is really an amazing time. We have now an ability to pull together information. Think about this. If every single person had universal access to imaging early, then national health services all across the world would have a much better finger on the pulse of what to do for their people than they have now. Right now, just getting people to a facility to get an image is a challenge. But if we can create a lower bar to where people have more access to imaging and those people are in control of their own health information as opposed to relying on some bureaucrat to do so, no one cares about your health as much as you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And empowering people is part of the secret to that.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. So what's the big question for the future as we wrap this up today? I mean, what are the questions that we should be asking? What are the things, how do we take this and turn this into something that we can start utilizing day to day?
Well, I think in the 5 years from now, your income, your life, 30% of your income will be from your day job and 70% will be from you trading, literally day trading your data.
Day trading your data. That warps my mind. Amazing. And you own it though. When you're trading it,
you're right. You're trading a license to your data, right?
Right.
Right. And with the AI in place, it'll put the safeguards in there so that you don't sell it, give it away.
Yeah, you're not selling data, you're giving access to it.
Right.
Which is, I mean,
strict limited licenses to your data. So one researcher, one research project, one-time use data, single use.
Yeah.
So Pavan, I don't know that everyone fully understands transactional versus large language models, but it's the transactional system that Pavan and Angel AI built that makes this possible. That's why for healthcare and consumer information, the transactional language models we think is
This is just such a new big topic. We got to keep on top of what's going on. Please, I want to have the both of you back as you continue, as we make progress in this. Say, Dave, why are you paying so much attention to this? Hopefully our listeners are getting some insights why I am invested as much of my time and energy with this podcast to share this kind of information. We're at a major turning point. What an exciting conversation.
Another prediction I have in 5 years on the Fannie Mae 1003 form, one of the asset lines will be value of your data.
Wow.
Right? It's like 401k and life insurance, it'll be data value.
The world, David, that you've been living in is going through, our whole world's going through a massive transition, but I'm not sure anything's going through it as much as healthcare and the pharmaceutical and all of what we're talking about here. Wrap it up with where you see us going in the future. What's your vision?
Well, I think Pavan's spot on in terms, he has a better finger on the pulse of the data broker than I do. I can tell you that in healthcare, things are changing rapidly. And if we have an ability to better intervene sooner and create better access for people in a low-cost way, it's going to change the world. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah. That's what I love about you guys. Every time I get around and meet more people from Dorado and your community there, you guys seem to be all in on that. It's just such a delight to have met you, Damon. Thank you, Pavan, for making that possible, meaning Katrina. And I got to tell you, listeners, we got to get Katrina on here sometime, talking about markets.
Absolutely.
She
She's a
is a
rock star.
marketing genius. And it's so good. No, that's just wonderful people. Thanks so much for being here, gentlemen. We're going to continue this conversation. I just got to digest all that we just heard today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, David. Cheers.
Folks, I hope you enjoyed this interview with Damon and Pavan. It's made possible by our sponsors, Titleese, Byte Software, First Close, Angel AI, True, Candid, MBA, Lenders One, Modex, Redder, Mortgage Advisory Tools, and Fuel Inc. Hope you'll stay tuned. Love to hear your feedback on this podcast and welcome your insights and your feedback. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in and get ready for another podcast. We'll be releasing another one soon. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Lykken on Lending. Our passion is to bring you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. So on this show, if you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, it's your go-to source for all things mortgage. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Lykken on Lending.